after France, which was a tremendous experience. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs of St. Louis. I had a license to drive at 16, and that was my understanding of cities, except the time in Caracas where I actually would walk and take the metro, and I love that sense of urban quality to the city. But in living in Montpellier, I walked everywhere. I walked from I had lived in 3 different homes. That's the way the program's structured in a semester, and walked to my high school. So I think before architecture, I was aware of how different cities are and how, you know, how much it affects your livelihood, and then the way you encounter others. Then I returned to the United States. I had thought that I would study, so I applied to schools, deferred, and I deferred at MIT because my thought was that I would become a chemical engineer so that I could work in the petroleum companies and move back to Venezuela. That was my plan at 18. And so obviously I've always had this tremendous love for Venezuela, and was trying to figure out how I'd manage to get back. But in France, I wasn't so sure that that's where I wanted to focus, you know, at least not so soon. And I had the good fortune that my father was a professor at Emory, in both with Grady Hospital and Emory University, and I could be there, you know, if accepted, for free tuition. So I decided to do that. I reapplied to Emory and went through a liberal arts path, and decided to major in chemistry just the same. But thank goodness for distribution requirements in undergraduate. And I took art history, which I was saving, finding a way to get it to fit into my schedule, because with all the labs that you take in sciences, it was difficult. And then I just loved art history. I mean, it was an intense love, and quickly decided that I would double major. I was, you know, it was totally feasible. I could handle it within the 4 years. And I took one of the art history courses, which was focused on architecture by a fabulous professor, Dr. Rohr. And that course that she presented then was on 3 architects. It was Le Corbusier, Frank Lloyd Wright, and Gaudí, which is a strange trio that she selected. But I was fascinated. It was, I also really enjoyed the other art history courses. Emory has a fantastic art history department that I have to say influenced me tremendously. And Dr. McPhee, she's one of the several daughters of John McPhee, and she teaches the history in art and architecture of the Renaissance and Baroque, maybe mostly Baroque in Italy. She encouraged me years later to apply to the Rome Prize, which I did, and that was amazing, like the opportunity that opened up for me after graduate school. And Elizabeth Paston is also amazing professor still there in Gothic and also Islamic art. And I did my thesis with her on the Gothic Cathedral of Bourges in France, based on a tiny, tiny footnote by Erwin Panofsky, that he says that Bourges does not have the merit that say Chartres does, and it's actually a much more sophisticated engineering feat than Chartres. Anyway, so that department, which is in a Michael Graves building at Emory, was just absolutely captivating, and these fabulous role models that I had, all women. And Dr. Rohr explained to us, you know, that even though Emory is a liberal arts school and doesn't have architecture as a profession, you can still become an architect through so for the graduate programs that are your first professional degree. And so I was on board. I did something called Career Discovery at Harvard in '97, which was in the summer. And that led me to apply to schools thereafter. So my education in architecture is at the graduate level, similar to way law school or medical school operates.